I just ask you to introduce yourself?
My name is Jake Middleton, and I am currently Esports Performance Manager at Adamus Esports.
What is your educational background?
Yeah, so my bachelor's is in exercise science, which I got at Missouri State University. I'm a certified exercise physiologist with the American College of Sports Medicine, and I'm currently getting my master's in sport and performance psychology from the University of Western States.
What benefits do you think a performance coach will bring to esports?
A ton of benefits. So much that I cannot say all of them right here in this one sitting, but the biggest thing is helping players in a sport, if you would call it that, be able to learn skills that they otherwise would not learn. So things like being able to develop their confidence, their ability to improve their mental toughness, but also the lifestyle optimization side of things. So helping them with exercise, nutrition, and sleep, really helping them reach their goals, which of course is improved performance, but also on the flip side of helping improve their overall health and wellness. In our society, as it keeps changing, technology is great, but of course it's a double-edged sword. And so in a sport like esports, where you're sitting for prolonged periods of time, making sure that people are staying healthy is really important as well.
What benefits do you think a exercise routine will give to esports athletes?
So first off, if we want to talk about performance benefits, an exercise routine, if you haven't been exercising, you just start, it can provide a lot of benefits for that. So one is it can help improve cognitive performance. Research shows even just short bouts of like 5 to 10 minutes can help with those things. And then also helping with motor skills. So reaction time, coordination, but also can help with other things like resistance to stress. Esports can be really stressful. They've found in research that heart rates can be really high in competitions. So when it comes to like traveling and all the other demands that go with it, exercising regularly can help you deal with those stresses. And then also another thing would be like energy levels. Being able to sit for prolonged periods of time and have the energy to play at a high level throughout the day can really help with that as well. But I think the biggest one, a lot of people focus in on, obviously how exercise can help with appearance, but the biggest thing is it just can help make people feel better, especially mental health in esports, which is a big issue due to, what technology can do when you don't balance things out. And so I think exercise is a huge benefit for players in that area as well.
How often do you really recommend that esports athletes exercise?
So I basically go off the recommendations put out by the major institutions. So I recommend definitely get at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise each week, and then ideally 2 days of resistance training. Ideally weightlifting, but if you don't have access to equipment or it's just not something you're into, totally fine. You can do some resistance bodyweight exercises as well.
Kind of going off that, how do you think the exercise routine of an esports athlete will differ kind of from the average person?
So the way I see it is like fitness is definitely important in esports, not so much as, of course, compared to traditional sports, but there are specific things that are important for an esports athletes, like the ability to sit for prolonged periods of time, posture, stamina, all these different things. And so those can be trained specifically within esports. But I think that the biggest difference comes down to like in traditional sports, you'll work out for like an hour or maybe longer. And there's kind of like these discrete times for that. But what I'm finding is that like in esports, you don't really have to have that. And a lot of times, especially at the professional level, it's hard to find time to do that. And there's a lot of barriers that come with it. So if you just kind of chunk your exercise, your workout into like, say, 10-minute intervals, and then you do that throughout the day, say like before your gaming set, that's an easy way to get more physical activity out through the day, to break up those prolonged periods of sitting and to get all those benefits.
Do you have any experience training youth athletes, or how do you think an exercise routine would change with the younger age of the population?
I do have a little bit of experience with youth athletes, not as much as working with like your normal adult athlete, but I would say that the biggest thing for them is just like it's just getting them active. For the recommendation for younger athletes, of course, younger individuals, is 60 minutes of physical activity a day. So just encouraging them, whether it's just doing bodyweight stuff, whether it's getting out, playing other sports, that's a big one I would recommend. So like if you're a young athlete who wants to be an esports player or streamer, like definitely encourage them to play other sports, similar to what you would do growing up. Recommend if you want to be really good at basketball, playing swimming, playing football, things like that. It's going to help you with that sport as well. So I would recommend that as well.
Do you see less injuries and health issues after athletes begin exercising?
I see from what I've seen anecdotally, yeah, I would say that there's less pain from players who start exercising, even if it's very small, adding in some stretches after your gaming session. They've reported less pain, which is great. So I think, yeah, if you have pain, definitely that's a great thing to incorporate. But the big key is, of course, injury prevention. So a lot of times I've seen too, it's when they get the injury, when they have the pain, that's when they start to incorporate it. But hopefully it's just getting them to, do that before it gets to that point.
Do you have any recommendations for a warm up or cool down before gaming or after?
If you're new to exercise, you could do something very simple. So like you could just focus on some dynamic movements. So like maybe some wrist rolls, some finger waves, things like that are more specific to gaming, but definitely incorporating more compound exercises. So like the push up, a squat, things like that that are going to activate those muscles that are going to be important for when you're sitting and which become deactivated over time, but also to increase blood flow, definitely decrease rest periods. So kind of do like a circuit. Maybe you do 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 10 jumping jacks. It can be as simple as that. And of course, it just depends on your level of expertise, your fitness level. You can add in different, more challenging exercises. You can extend that out to be longer if you want to. Totally up to you, but just doing something is better than nothing. But that's an example of a warm up. A cool down would be focusing more on like static stretches. So you could do your standard tennis elbow stretch, maybe some finger stretches, wrist stretches. But I definitely incorporating some yoga poses can be really helpful, like cobra pose, child's pose, and just a few things like that. It doesn't take a lot, but doing that consistently is going to provide big benefits over time.
Do esports athletes really have any issues when they begin an exercise program for the first time?
Some do, some don't. At least in my experience, it kind of depends on their background. Like some players will have a sports background or they have experience with exercise, whereas others they don't at all. And so it's kind of like you have to first then get them to buy into doing that, understand the benefits of it. And so it just depends on the athlete. I found that a lot of players don't like cardio, so trying to figure out ways to like get them that cardiorespiratory those benefits, because we know obviously that's from the research, like that's really one of the best things for cognitive performance. So what I've done is just basically take more resistance-based exercises and kind of turn those into circuits. So just keeping the rest periods down that way to keep their heart rates up. So like little things like that.
Do you really see any changes in things like mood or energy after they start exercising?
At least from like the reports that we have, most people, they do feel better. They report having higher levels of energy, and then also just feeling better overall, which is great to me because I think again, it's great to see changes in your appearance over time, which I think is what a lot of people focus on. But as long as you're feeling better, you have a better mood. I found that to be like a great motivator for players to continue to keep exercising.
Do you have any tips for athletes that relate to their nutrition?
Yes. So nutrition, it's a complex topic. There's different types of diets. One diet's going to work well for someone and not work well for someone else. So I usually just give some general nutrition tips, but really focus into the nutrition before, during, and after their gaming, whether it's practice or whether it's competition, because that's an easy way to start setting up good habits. So like before you play, making sure you're not eating high glycemic foods. So things that are really sugary, like soda, processed foods, that's going to spike your blood sugar, and that's going to lead to physical and mental fatigue. So making sure you're eating lower glycemic foods before that, trying to opt for more protein or healthy fats. That's one thing. So during, making sure you're staying hydrated, even if you're just slightly dehydrated, it's been shown to decrease cognitive performance. So making sure you're just taking a sip, or two every 15 minutes can be helpful. And then afterwards, making sure you're eating a bigger, more well-balanced meal. Sometimes, especially at tournaments, if you don't eat for a while and you're playing a bunch of matches, you get really hungry over time because you have a lot of stress, for one, because of everything that's going on. So you get this like huge craving for something that's typically unhealthy. And so, players might go to like some sort of fast food place or something like that just to satiate their hunger. So definitely like bringing a lunchbox, bringing food with you ahead of time, like some protein bars, protein shakes, fruit, maybe vegetables and peanut butter, whatever it might be. As long as you can plan ahead of time, that's going to help you to where, then you're not going to eat unhealthy. And then if you go back and play another match, it's not going to negatively affect your performance.
Do you think that an athlete's nutrition should really change when they're playing to versus when they're just in the off season and not doing much gaming?
I think it can, yeah. And a big point too is I think that like as gamers, you don't have to eat healthy 100% of the time. Like just eat well most of the time. So I usually say like have 1 or 2 cheat meals throughout the week. If you do that each week, that's great because you not only are you eating healthy most of the time and getting those benefits, but you're able to enjoy what you want to enjoy and you're able to live life as well. And I think that's really important because no one can be that strict or go 100%. Like you're just going to relapse every time. But in terms of like in season, yes, definitely want to make sure you're eating healthier most of the time, especially when you're getting closer to important competitions. And then in the off season, like feel free to take some time off from your diet, enjoy some more foods regularly. But again, I've found if you just add in 1 or 2 cheat meals a week, it's a great way to like kind of reward yourself for eating well more consistently.
And what do you mean by a cheat meal?
Sure. So cheat meal essentially is just like whatever you want to eat, you can eat it. So if you want to eat McDonald's hamburger and fries, like go grab that. You want a McFlurry or you want to grab some ice cream after too, like that's a cheat meal. Of course, within reason, like don't go super overboard, but you have one meal where you can basically eat whatever you want. And that's probably like on the extreme end of that. But like if you have, say, something you really like mac and cheese or something that you normally wouldn't eat within your diet based on your goals, this is the time where you can eat that.
Do you have any tips for athletes relating to sleep?
Yes. So general tips, one is try to aim between 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. It seems like from the research, when you go below 7 hours, you get into what's called a cognitive deficit. And what that means is basically your performance on tasks, whether physical or mental, slowly decreases the less amount of sleep that you get. And so what's interesting too is subjectively, you might feel like, say, if you get 6 hours of sleep a night, your body will adapt to that. And you feel like you feel fine, you feel normal. But when we objectively look at performance, it's actually worse than what it would be if you actually got the normal 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And everybody's different. So some people, it might be closer to 9 hours. Some people, it might be 7 hours. It's just kind of figuring out what the sweet spot is for you. But trying to stay within that window is definitely one of the most important things. The other is sleep quality. So, and the way to improve sleep quality is to go to bed and wake up at pretty much consistently the same times each day and night. You can usually get like an hour window between that time, whatever that is. But that's the best way to improve your sleep quality. You get more REM sleep at night, and you're able to achieve more deeper sleep as well. So those are the 2 things I would say that are really important, but there's a bunch of tips that we could go into.
What would you say is the biggest challenge when working with esports athletes?
The biggest challenge I would say is probably just getting buy-in initially. The culture is one that it's starting to change where it's shifting towards more of this health and wellness approach, especially at the professional level, but it's still challenging for some players within some cultures to be able to get them to buy into doing these things. So I'd still say that's the biggest challenge, but it's definitely changing. And especially at the professional level, it's a much easier, but it's definitely the greater community working with college, high school, amateur players where that's still a pretty big challenge.
Do you do most of the coaching virtually or in person?
So as of now, it's pretty much all 100% online. We do programming one-on-one like we're doing right now, as well as group sessions. And then we do, messaging Q&A through Discord. We provide content and things like that. But yeah, 100% all online right now.
Do you think you really lose anything without being in person with these athletes?
I think online is okay in terms of like esports is very digital, and a lot of these players and teams, they're able to be in their own kind of like comfortable environments, but you do lose a lot as well in terms of like building that rapport of, especially if it's like something like exercise, being able to be there to make sure that they're doing good form, giving them immediate feedback, things like that. So there's definitely pros and cons, but I think that it's definitely something that can still have a really big impact doing the programming online as well.
What advice would you give to someone that is looking to become an esports performance coach?
I would recommend a few things. As of now, it's not necessarily a job that you can just kind of like get online and look up and apply for. They're very scarce right now, but it is something that organizations are definitely, they're bringing on more people. So if you're interested in this, knowing that esports is continuing to grow and that more opportunities are going to come, just looking to diversify yourself. So the first thing I think is, of course, education. So if you're getting your bachelor's or you're getting some sort of certification, like that's great. Also getting experience. So for when I first started, which was about 5 years ago, I usually did things for free. So I worked with a bunch of different communities and teams. And so you might have to do that starting off. But what's great about that is it's going to give you experience. You're going to learn from the players that you work with, the coaches, the organizations, and that's going to help you in the work that you would do down the road. The next thing would be networking. Networking is huge in the esports space. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, highly recommend getting one. And then just networking with people in the space, meeting more practitioners and coaches, but also business professionals. That's going to help you down the road when you're trying to get a job, and also in just professional development as well.
Is there any certifications or degrees that you would recommend?
I mean, I'm a little biased. For me, like I'm definitely a generalist. So I got my bachelor's in exercise science. I'm getting my master's in sport and performance psychology. As a performance coach, you ideally want to have a varied skill set to be able to understand the physical aspects of things, but also the mental as well. But you can also be a specialist. So if you want to focus on physical therapy, if you want to focus on sports medicine, there's definitely subdisciplines, of course, within esports as well. So I wouldn't recommend anything specifically, but just like make sure that what you're getting is in line with what you want to do in the space.
Okay, Cenk, I really appreciate this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.